What is going on, everybody? It is your boy, your man, Stook. Back at it with another video, and today we are continuing doing yet another toxic tier list ranking. Ooh, yeah. And today we're doing a tier list ranking of all the WWE 2024 PLEs from both the main roster and NXT, and we will be ranking them from the worst to the best, in my personal opinion, of course. But before we get into actual beginning of the video, what's up, guys? Don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the channel, because number one, it's absolutely free. Number two, also maybe help with the YouTube algorithm recommended video. More people, maybe they could join that toxic fam. And feel free to comment your thoughts on the WWE PLEs this year down below. But with that being said, guys, let's get right into it. Before we get right into it, here are the tiers. We have best of the best, which means they were a perfect pay-per-view all around, and they had phenomenal matches. Great means it comes close to best of the best, but there's like a minor match holding it back from going into the best of the best category. Toxic goodness means it was a good pay-per-view. It's a solid pay-per-view. Okay means overall it's a mixed bag. I don't necessarily know how to feel about it. And then toxic trash means dumpster fire. The worst matches of WWE pay-per-views. The worst pay-per-views of WWE 2024. Anyway, so as I said before, but we have both main roster and NXT. And our first match, our first pay-per-view we have is the Royal Rumble of 2024, which, if you guys did not know, I actually attended this one. I was there in person in Tampa. The vlog's now out on the channel if you guys are interested to check that out. But as for this pay-per-view, this one's a tough one for me, because I got personal bias aside from actually attending the event, so where do I put it? It's one of these two categories. I can't go outright toxic trash. I'm gonna go toxic goodness. There wasn't like a not entertaining bad match on here. Like, there wasn't a single bad match on here. But they were just like a couple of them were disappointing. Like the best match by far on this card was the Women's Royal Rumble. That match was phenomenal, and I think that's the best Women's Royal Rumble we've gotten since they've added a Women's Royal Rumble. And honestly, it might be in my all-time favorite Royal Rumbles. I thought it was awesome, and I was so happy Bayley won. And honestly, any of the three women and the final three, if they won, I wouldn't have been mad. If it was her, Liv Morgan, or Jade Cargill, I'd been fine with any one of those three options. The Men's Rumble was a step down, but I still think it's decent how the cards played out, because Cody ended up winning this one, which around that time when he won, I was wanting CM Punk to win, and I was a little disappointed that we got another multi-time Royal Rumble winner, even though I love Cody, don't get me wrong. But I was overall mixed about it, because I knew, oh yeah, for sure he's gonna finish the story, so yeah, it's fine, he won, but I was kind of hoping Punk would win, and what do you know, Punk actually got injured instead, so it actually ended up working out, so Cody was the right choice to win it. The Men's Rumble also didn't have a whole lot of surprises. The only surprise that was there was Andrade. They had like They had other returns, too, that weren't as, like, oh my goodness, they're actually back, what? They were just going like, oh, okay, they're back. Like, for example, Omos returning, which, man, Omos. They be using my boy wrong. I feel like that he should be featured on TV more. And then you also had Sami Zayn enter in at number 30, which I love Sami, but the crowd... Yeah, the crowd was not too big on him. I don't know why they saved him for number 30. Honestly, I would have probably changed him out for Andrade. Also, a couple NXT people were in this match with Braun Breaker, Carmelo Hayes. So, yeah, that was pretty... Yeah, it's a toxic goodness pay-per-view. And as for, like, the just straight-up matches, the Fatal 4-Way match, that was pretty fun, but we all knew that Roman was retaining, so... Yeah. And the Kevin Owens versus Logan Paul was decent too. It might be my least favorite Logan Paul match, maybe, but it's still good. But it had a clever finish, though, when Logan tried to hit Kevin with the brass knuckles, then Kevin countered and hit him with the brass knuckles. The referee counts 1, 2, and I for sure, when the vlog happened, I for sure thought KO won for a second. But nope, the referee caught him, and Kevin got DQ'd and Logan retained the title and also won the match. So I thought that was a genius finish. So I'll put it toxic goodness. Next up we have NXT Vengeance Day, the first NXT pay-per-view of the year. I'm sorry if I talked about that one for a little too long. This pay-per-view was, I think it was great. The matches you had on here, you had Roxanne Perez versus Lyra Valkyria, and soon it changed into a triple threat match with them two and Lola Vice, which I think that was probably the weakest match of the night, but still it was quite good. Also, Obafemi had his first pay-per-view title defense against Dragon Lee for the NXT North American Championship, which I thought that match was quite good as well. And the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic Finals was great between Trick and Mello versus the Wolf Dogs. And also the main event was also great between Trick Williams and Ilya Dragunov, and excellent heel turn that they did between Carmelo on Trick. That was a great heel turn. Next up we have Elimination Chamber in Perth, Australia. I'm gonna put this one okay. I think it's a step down from Royal Rumble, but still I don't think it's a bad show by any means. I think the in-ring action was quite good. The two chamber matches were both solid. Again, the woman, I just sound like Sanji Zap, but the woman stole the match type. Oh, how do I say this? The woman had the better match type. Again, they had the better Royal Rumble match at Royal Rumble. They had the better Elimination Chamber match this night as well, between Becky Lynch, Raquel Rodriguez, Naomi, Tiffany Stratton. Who were the other two that were in there? Liv Morgan and Bianca Belair. They had a phenomenal Elimination Chamber match. The Perth crowd was great. The men's Elimination Chamber match was also great, too. It had Bobby Lashley, Kevin Owens, LA Knight, Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre, and Logan Paul in there. So that was also a really good match. I'm sorry if I mentioned the person twice. The tag team match between the Brawling Brutes, no, not the Brawling Brutes, No Quarter Catch Club versus the Judgment Day was also a really good match, but it just did not have enough build. And then as for the women's main event match between Rhea Ripley and Nia Jax, it was a good way to close the show. Rhea getting her moment in her hometown of Australia, but still, the actual match itself I think was a little slow, so I'm gonna put that at okay. Next up we have NXT Stand and Deliver, and this was also a really great show. Do I put it best the best? I don't know. I'll talk about this later on in the show, and maybe I'll change it. But this pay-per-view was absolutely awesome. It's probably my second favorite pay-per-view of the year. I'm at second favorite NXT pay-per-view of the year, I should say. All the matches on here were great. The triple threat match between Josh Briggs, Obafemi, and Dijak was awesome. That was probably up there for one of the best pay-per-view matches of the year. You also had Lyra Valkyria versus Roxanne Perez, which I thought was an even better match from NXT Vengeance Day. I thought that was awesome too. That might be my favorite women's match of the year. I thought it was great. And Roxanne Perez started her title reign with a bang. Trick Williams versus Carmelo Hayes was also a really great match, but also I thought the finish was really abrupt. I didn't expect it to end that quickly with it being the main event, but okay. Ilya Dragunov versus Tony D'Angelo was also a really great match for the NXT title. I wasn't expecting much from it, and it actually was pretty good. The only match that was pretty forgettable on here was Fallon Henley, Thea Hale, and Kalani Jordan versus JC Jane, Izzy Dame, and Kiana James. It was cool to see Thea get her moment, but I think that was probably the most forgettable match. It was still decent, but yeah, I'll put it great. You know what? No. There's enough warning in Best of the Best. It's probably the low Best of the Best, but it is Best of the Best pay-per-view. Then you got WrestleMania 40. I mean, duh. That's the best pay-per-view of the year. I think none of us are going to argue with that, but it's still, like, really... yeah, it was a phenomenal show. The only match on here that wasn't on par with the others was Jimmy versus Jay, which I'm a little bit more nicer to than most people. I rewatched that match not too long ago, and I don't think it's as bad as I remember it, but still it's not a necessarily good match either. But all the rest of the matches on the card delivered. Sami Zayn versus Gunther was awesome. Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns is my personal favorite match of the year. I loved that match so much. That might be my favorite wrestling match of all time. Just the storytelling in that match was brilliant. Rock and Roman versus Seth and Cody on night 1 was also a great match. Well, starting off slow, but it was still a great match. Drew McIntyre versus Seth was also good. Rhea Ripley versus Bayley. Rhea Ripley versus Becky was pretty decent, but the women's match between Bayley and Io Sky as well, that might be a contender for women's match of the year. That match was also great, and the tag team ladder match was also fun too. So, yeah, WrestleMania 40, yeah, there's no doubt it's the best of the best. Next up, we got Backlash. In Backlash, honestly, I think it's best of the best too. I thought this was a phenomenal show, and this is like a B pay-per-view, and they ended up making it an A+, because this by far had one of the best professional wrestling crowds in history at me, with the French crowd. They were absolutely phenomenal the whole entire night. You could tell they were invested in the action. The last 2 Backlash pay-per-views, man, they've had phenomenal crowds. So, yeah, this time around even more so. The matches were awesome. The tag team opener between Tama Tonga and Solo Sikoa versus RKO, that was a pretty good match. The main event between AJ Styles and Cody Rhodes was awesome, and no wonder Dave Meltzer gave that 5 stars. The women's triple threat match between Tiffany Stratton, Bayley, and Naomi was also really great. Jey Uso versus Damian Priest was awesome. Just every match on this card was awesome, and the crowd were awesome, so they helped elevate it to another level. So I'm going to put that best of the best. Next up, we got King of the Ring, and King of the Ring, this one's a tough one for me. Okay, and I just want to clarify this. I watched this, this happened on the day of my sister's wedding. So, during the matches, sometimes I had to get ready for the wedding. So sorry if I'm a little foggy on this, but I think it is back of Toxic Goodness. I think it was a really good show. The triple threat match between Bronson Reed, Chad Gable, and Sami Zayn was great match there. Trying to think of everything else that was happened there as well. Cody Rhodes versus Logan Paul was a decent match, while still probably being one of my least favorite Logan Paul matches. Why am I blanking out? Let me look at who's on the card. Becky versus Liv was okay. It was cool to see Liv win the title and all, but I'm pretty sure that was all the matches that happened on the card, right? I don't know. Toxic Goodness. I think it deserves Toxic Goodness. I think it was a good show. Next up, we have NXT Battleground, and unfortunately, I'm gonna put this toxic trash. The arena was quite small, so the crowd wasn't as big as I was hoping for, and they weren't as loud as I was hoping for either, which isn't their fault. It's just a small arena. There were just so many matches. The only match that I thought was, like, awesome and delivered was Joe Coffey versus Wesley versus Obafemi. I thought that was a phenomenal triple threat match. everything else was just disappointing. Like, Nathan Frazier and Axiom versus the Good Brothers, I was expecting Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows to win that match. And that match was very okay. It was not near any of Axiom and Nathan Frazier's best tag team matches yet. The NXT Women's North American Ladder match was good, don't get me wrong, but it just felt very abrupt. I was not expecting that match to end the way it did. And then Trick Williams versus Ethan Page should have been like a great match on paper, but apparently they just said, oh, we're going to end it quickly. So it felt like a very short match. And Roxanne Perez versus Jordan Grace was pretty good too, but it was just a disappointing show, so unfortunately I have to put that there. Clash at the Castle 2024. I'm going to put this great. I thought this was a great show. The only thing holding it back from going into Best of the Best, the only two things, is the women's triple threat tag team match was good, but it felt it was the weakest match of the night compared to the other matches. And also, Sami Zayn versus Chad Gable, don't get me wrong, that was a phenomenal match. But we all fully agreed that Chad Gable should have won that match, but it's okay. But hopefully Chad Gable gets his singles championship soon, which I think they're going to give him the Speed Championship for his first singles championship. So, yeah, unfortunately that happened. But Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest was great. AJ Styles versus Cody Rhodes was great again in an I Quit match. And Piper Niven versus Bayley was also pretty good as well for the WWE Women's Championship. So I'm going to put that great. Next up, we got Money in the Bank pay-per-view and Toxic Rush. This is the worst pay-per-view of the year for me. Like, in-ring action, with NXT Battleground and Money in the Bank, the in-ring action was decent enough, but it's just the decisions made for this pay-per-view, especially this one, because the men's Money in the Bank match was starting off really hot, and when Drew finally grabbed the briefcase, I was going like, what? We had like 5 more minutes left, and I want literally anyone else, if they won, I would have been happy, but Drew won, which I love Drew, don't get me wrong, but as soon as he won, I was going like, oh my goodness, they're gonna make him fail his cash-in, aren't they? So when he won, I was going, darn, no, we're gonna have to wait until someone until someone gets the briefcase again next year. So there's that. And also, Drew already had won World Championships, unlike everyone else in the match. So, women's Money in the Bank Money in the Bank ladder match was way better. There are a couple botches here and there, don't get me wrong, but still, it was a great ladder match, and I'm glad Tiffany Stratton won. If her or Chelsea Green would have won, I wouldn't have been mad. So I'm glad she won. Even though since then she hasn't been a great Miss Money in the Bank, which Triple H, I love you, man, but you gotta book the Money in the Bank briefcase holders better. Because even though Damian Priest was a good Money in the Bank, had a great Money in the Bank cash in, he was not booked as a good Mr. Money in the Bank. Same with Tiffany Stratton. Braun Breaker versus Sami Zayn. I hated that they made Braun Breaker lose that early on, because and this time around too, it was in Sami's home crowd. If you wanted to make Braun Breaker look like an utter beast, have him win in Sami's hometown and demolish Sami. That could have been a great way to get massive heel heat on him, especially in Canada. Then also Damian Priest versus Seth Rollins. Man, it was quite unfortunate. Yeah, in this match, Drew McIntyre cashed in his Money in the Bank contract, and what do you know, failed the Money in the Bank cash-in on the same night. If this would have happened later on down the road when Drew was still Money in the Bank, I probably would have been less mad, but this time around, why? The feud was already hot between him and CM Punk. So you have him cost him the briefcase and then lose his opportunity at the World Heavyweight Championship. It's just, why? But yeah, toxic trash. I did not enjoy Money in the Bank pay-per-view at all. I thought it was very disappointing. Next up we got NXT Heatwave. Probably the most surprising show on this list. This is the second best pay-per-view of the year. I loved NXT Heatwave. I was so shocked at how good it was too. The in-ring matches were great between Wesley and Wesley and Obafemi was great. Lola Vice versus Roxanne Perez was also a really good match, and I actually had Lola Vice winning. I thought she was going to win the title, but Roxanne ended up retaining. The tag team match between Chase U and Fraxium was also awesome, and that fatal four-way match in the main event was phenomenal. Probably one of the best matches of the year. This could have been the fatal four-way match that AJ Styles, LA Knight, Randy Orton, and Roman Reigns could have had at the Royal Rumble. But this match was way better than that, and I fully expected Trick Williams to retain the NXT title here. But I was glad actually that Ethan Page ended up winning the NXT title the way he did. I thought that was a great way to get, because I think they were trying to set up an example for AEW, like, see, we can push people, and that was great to see Ethan Page win the NXT title, because I was a fan of him in AEW, so I'm glad he's getting the respect he deserves. Overall, NXT Heatwave was awesome. I love that pay-per-view. Next up, we got SummerSlam. SummerSlam. SummerSlam is also a best of the best pay-per-view. Probably the second best main roster pay-per-view of the year. Every match on here delivered and had the right outcome. The LA Knight Logan Paul match was phenomenal for the U.S. title, and I'm glad LA Knight won, because I was going like, if Logan wins, does that mean LA Knight doesn't get an opportunity at the title? So I'm glad LA Knight won that. What other things happened in this match? Other things happened in the show? Bayley versus Nia Jax was surprisingly a really great match for the WWE Women's Championship, and Nia Jax is having a fantastic run right now. Can we talk about it? Why am I blanking out? Damian Priest versus Gunther was probably the best in-ring match of the night. I thought that match was also phenomenal, and I'm glad Gunther became World Heavyweight Champion. It is still World Heavyweight Champion. Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk was also decent. Probably my least favorite. I know this is probably a hot take, but that's probably my least favorite match out of their trilogy, but still it was a pretty good match. With Seth Rollins as special guest referee, and Rhea vs. Liv was also quite good. So this show delivered, and you also had the return of Roman Reigns on the show. So, and that fun little Bloodline Rules match between Cody Rhodes and Solo Sikoa. So yeah. Next up, we have Bash in Berlin. Bash in Berlin. This one hurts me, because I don't know where do I put it. Where do I put it? Trying to think of all the matches that happened here. Okay, so right now I'm going to put it at the top of Toxic Goodness. It might change later on in the video, but this was a good pay-per-view too. You had a couple of good matches here. Randy Orton versus Gunther was really good. Why am I blanking? I'm trying to remember all the matches on this card. Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens was also great. Probably the best match of the night. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn versus Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair was disappointing. I was hoping Alba Fire and Isla Dawn would have a better tag team title run, but it is what it is. And the strap match between CM Punk and Drew McIntyre I thought was way more better than their previous match. So, I'll put that at Toxic Goodness. Next up, we have NXT No Mercy. NXT No Mercy, I'm going to put it at the Toxic Goodness pay-per-view goodness as well. I'm going to put that as probably my least favorite of the Toxic Goodness category. Joe Hendry versus Ethan Page. I love Trick Williams, but did we need him as special guest referee? Anyways, that made the match a little slower, I won't lie. But it was great to see Joe Hendry main event a pay-per-view. Wesley versus Nash Carter was awesome. Jada Parker versus Roxanne Perez was really good, and Chase U and Fraxium had another banger match. So, yeah, I'll put this good. I think it was a good match, a good pay-per-view. Next up we got not Hell in a Cell, Bad Blood. Bad Blood, I'm gonna put okay too. If it wasn't for CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, this probably would have gone toxic trash. CM Punk and Drew McIntyre had a phenomenal match. Nia Jackson Bailey, they just basically had the same exact match from SummerSlam pay-per-view, with maybe besides Nia Jax doing a Hurricane Rana and a Bailey to Bailey to Bailey, but that's pretty much it. Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes versus Solo and Jacob Fatu was fine. It was just there to have The Rock appear one more time. And Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan, yeah, it was good in-ring action, but that finish was very stupid. But the Hell in a Cell match between Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, definitely one of the best matches of the year, so I'll put that there. Next up, we got NXT Halloween Havoc. NXT Halloween Havoc, I would put it in the good tier as well. I like it better than NXT No Mercy. The tables, ladders, and scares match between Tony D'Angelo and Obafemi was quite good. The Devil's Playground match between Trick Williams and Ethan Page was also awesome. That was a funny match with Ethan Page's facial expressions. The tag team match between Stephanie Vaquer and Julia versus Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade, I thought that was one of the best women's matches of the year. I thought that was phenomenal. And the women's gauntlet match was fine. And yeah, it was a good show. Next up, we got Crown Jewel 2024. Crown Jewel, honestly, it surprised me quite a bit. I'll put it at the top of Toxic Goodness as well. Cody Rhodes versus Gunther was a great match. Why am I blanking out? The triple threat match between LA Knight, Carmelo Hayes, and Andrade was also phenomenal. The Liv Morgan Nia Jax match was fine. It was fine. Why am I forgetting the matches? Bloodline versus New Bloodline was disappointing. They had a much better outing a little later on. That's all I'll say. Is that all the matches I can think of currently right now? Yeah, that's all the matches I can currently think of that happened on the card. Yeah, it was pretty good pay-per-view. It was pretty good. Survivor Series War Games 2024 pay-per-view. Survivor Series War Games is also a good pay-per-view as well. I think the men's War Games match was phenomenal. The triple threat match between Ludwig Kaiser, Braun Breaker, and Sheamus was phenomenal. One of the best triple threat matches of the year. What other matches happened on this card? LA Knight versus Shinsuke Nakamura was a good match. Damian Priest versus Gunther, kind of the same thing I said with Bayley and Nia Jax at Bad Blood. It was basically just the same match from SummerSlam, but they changed some things up here and there. The women's match, I think was good, but it started off very slow. Having Nia Jax and Bayley start off the match was just... that makes the match pace slower. I think if Candice LeRae started out with Bayley, I think that would have been a much better option. But anyways, and then now we move on to NXT Deadline. And NXT Deadline, I will put in the great tier. Go back up. There we go. The great tier. I thought NXT Deadline was great. Both Deadline matches were awesome. Especially the women's one. That women's one was stacked. You had Zarya, you had Julia, you had Stephanie Vaquer, you had Sol Rica, and then you had Ren St. Clair in there, who's the wild card, and surprisingly, she did pretty good, and she got actually pretty over in the match later on with the crowd chanting Ren, Ren, Ren. So that actually made me think she was pretty good. Trick Williams versus Ridge Holland was decent. We all knew Trick was going to retain the title anyways. Men's Deadline match was good too. I was a little shocked that Obafemi got pins, but okay. Whoa. Who is that? Wait, did Fallon Henley defend her title in this pay-per-view? I forgot if she did. I don't think she did, right? Yeah, she didn't. But I think, wait, or Tony D'Angelo, did he defend his title? Wait, no, Tony D didn't even defend his title too, but it was a great pay-per-view. I'll put it there. And then next up, we have Saturday night's main event, which people, it's not a PLE, but it's on here, so it was okay. This is my official thoughts on the pay-per-view. It was okay. I didn't like that there were commercial breaks, though. I really didn't like it, and especially in the matches, in between the matches, I was going, why have commercial breaks during the matches? That basically just ruins the match. Drew, Sammy had a decent match. Fun triple threat match with Damian Priest, Finn Balor, and Gunther. Liv Morgan versus Io Sky was phenomenal. Probably the best match of the night. And Cody versus Kevin was a little disappointing as well. Yeah, I was hoping for a lot more in that matchup, but it looks like the rivalry isn't done yet, so there's that. But that is just my thoughts on all the WWE Premium Live events of the year. Be sure to let me know your thoughts down below, and with that being said, guys, I'll see y'all next one, everybody. Peace.